Welcome to this side event on empowering community through citizen science and monitoring. My name is Ebenezer Odoi, and I have the privilege to moderate this side event in the Restoration Pavilion. This side event will last for approximately an hour with a brief introduction for a brief introduction of our panelists and our keynote speaker, who will discuss in detail the role of citizen science in the G20 Global Land Initiative and how the GLI team has applied this approach to the development of the Global Information Restoration Hub. After the presentation, we'll have a 20 minutes panel discussion followed by a Q&A session with participants. Without further ado, let's begin with our keynote speaker, Mohammed Absalam. Dr. Absalam is a program manager, or program officer rather, with the UNCCD Secretariat in Bonn, leading the information management for the G20 Global Land Initiative. He holds a PhD in applied remote sensing for earth science from the University of Arizona in the US. And here we have to say tutu, one of our partner schools. His work interests intersects the concepts of big data analytics, decision-making, planning, management, and development of geospatial platforms and knowledge repositories. Prior to joining UNCCD, Dr. Absalam worked for the International Food Policy Research Institute in Washington, D.C. Prior to that, Africa Rice in Benin, the United Nations Population Fund in Johannesburg, South Africa, and then in New York, and then United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Western Asia in Beirut, Lebanon. Our first panelist is Erkan Gula, who's a GIS and geospatial data expert with over a decade of experience in data visualization, project monitoring, and natural resource management. He also holds a PhD in natural resource management and GIS with experience in the private sector, which includes Shell Global, amongst other numerous governmental agencies. Erkan has contributed to initiatives like the UNCCD Global Mechanism and the G20 Global Land Initiative, serving as the chair of Annex 4 in 2021. Fluent in English and German, he excels in multicultural teams, driving sustainable development globally. Our second panelist is Nicole Lantz, and who is an environmental technical specialist at UNDP with expertise in education, outreach, and development. In 2013, she founded Sprout Educational Consulting, which completed over 330 projects for intergovernmental organizations, governments, academic institutions, and nonprofits. Recently, Nicole led a citizen science project to validate AI-generated data for global biodiversity framework targets and volunteered with UNCCD on the G20 Global Land Initiative. Our third panelist is Marian Cheriak, who is a researcher at the University of Norfolk. Marian has over 5 years' experience at the intersection of human health and environmental issues and 8 years of citizen science and community service. She's an assistant professor at the University of Norfolk. Her research focuses on the importance of citizen science in the fight against environmental pollution, particularly issues involving heavy metals and pesticides, which are key risk factors. Marian is passionate about raising public health awareness and the environment. Without further ado, I welcome Dr. Absalam to present to us. Thanks. I also invite the panelists. Please come join us, please. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much, EB. I would like to really share with you some information on the G20 Global Land Initiative Science approach that we really use to develop the Global Land Restoration Information Hub. We really use this approach to really increase access to data and knowledge. In the coming slide, I will guide you through the activities we really did in order to develop this global land restoration data knowledge hub. The Global Restoration Data and Knowledge Hub, it's a key element for the GLI to really provide access to data on restoration and also on best practices and community practices in restorations and other related information to land restorations. Not only to compile those information, but also to make those data is accessible to policymakers, policy analysis, to those who are involved on land restorations at the global scales. This is one of the main component of the GLI. So we developed these platforms, which I just described, using the citizen science approach. Take us around 12 months to develop. We launched this platform last July. So I will walk you through this, how we did this, why we did it. So you will see step by step how we started this and where we are right now. The really approach we developed basically relied on three main components, as you see here. The first one, how to collect data. We are basically compiling what is available on different, across different ecosystem, because we need to really, as GLI, to really increase access to data and make this data as available for those who are involved on land restorations. We use this citizen science approach that really, those three panelists were part of that process. So we use that to really collect data, to also verify, to really, and then the second component is the spatial dimension or the word concept, because in the end, we are working on land. We need to link this information to locations. And you can see here, the spatial temporal dimension, it's something we are trying to really use in order to verify the information that those scientists work on collect, but also link those information to location, because in the end of the day, we are trying to promote some best practices. We need to link that to pixel, to locations. Also, we need to see those best practices, where apply where exactly across different ecosystems. And then we apply some advanced IT technologies to really overcome the issue of connectivity, especially in the south part of the world. I can sit in the north part of the world and develop really comprehensive interactive data platform, but the connectivity, if I don't really overcome that issue, then no one in the south part of the world will be able to connect. So really also take that into account in order to really increase this. So basically, this is the framework on how we developed this Global Restoration Information Hub that we launched in July this year. Really, we work with around 117 scientists from 114 countries, for 12 months to collect data on restorations and legislations, best practices, data platforms, name it. All the data we have, collected by those 117 science. We use the power of location to verify all the information we have, because as I will mention this often, but this really, the power of location was the force driving of what we are doing, because we want to really guide the people to where this information is. So we work with them to collect, the data we have there, and then we verify all the type of data they collect in order to really. We are, again, it's secondary data, so it's basically using this advanced technology to really select those informations. After really select those data, and then we develop this technical approach. We build a centralized data center that really we increase access to everyone. And so we centralize all data, compile them, put them in one place, and then we put on that some basic analytic tools. You will see in the platform that people can interact with the data easily. They can filter, they can zoom in, zoom out. They can also compare between regions when it comes to restoration commitment across different regions. And then we really make sure that those who are sitting in rural areas will be able to access this data. The connectivity issue I mentioned earlier, that's something also it's critical for us because we want those who are in rural areas be able to be able to connect and interact with the data we have. And then also the network, the hardware also limitation because sometimes we need to build this on open source so that everyone can use it. So this is a technical approach we adapt to develop this hope. As you see here, basically this is the platform has 5 different components. The first one is basically you can go there and read about the platform, the mission, why we are doing this. And also you will have commitment at national. This is one of the major database available on commitment. That's country commitment. And we update this database last week based on the report we launched yesterday. But also we have data platforms. We really collect around 49 data platforms that's available on the platforms. We also restoration actors because we want also to make those actors visible. We also have that, and also we did a lot of learning because we believe in capacity building, trainings program, technologies, and also the last component is restorations because we need to promote restoration so that we can have more commitment. So this is basically the different components of the platforms we launched in July based on the work we did with scientists. Again, the main objective is really have all this information in a single platforms. So the user can interact with them, can really zoom in, they can go and even we have some best practice at the watershed level or community level. So all that information were put in a single platform that people can go and read about who really did these best practices, who provide the data. All this information again is linked to something, to locations, to country, to watershed. All that again it is in one single platforms. We're also engaging globally. We really want to track a global restoration commitment. For us at GLI, this is our main objective is really track restorations because we need to restore 50% of the degraded land by 2040. So we need to know what's going on. And then this platform really monitoring the country commitment. The latest information on commitment is available only in this platform. I will mention that again. It's the only a place where you can get the latest information on commitments. So we have to cross different UN processes, LDN and bond challenges and others. And we updated this information last week, based on the report we launched yesterday. But also we are creative, so we really want to put some analytic tools on top of the database so users can go and interact, can compare between countries, compare between regions, compare between also those processes, LDN or bond challenge if possible. So we also can see the data in different format, in tabular format or even map, can also download the data and do their own analysis. So all that information we have there is really interactive. You can zoom in, zoom out, you can compare between countries across different commitments. So we have that in a single platforms. And also the community knowledge on land restorations. Also trying also to make those knowledge visible, accessible to everyone in the world. And also you can zoom, so you see the map on the right. Even if you click there, you can zoom, you go to the community level. And you even, you can see what they are doing there. So again, we are using the power of location to really make those communities, visible across different ecosystems. And also training. This is one of the biggest component of the GLI. We need to really use the latest technologies. We need to improve our stakeholder skills in order really to know what. So this is training we have there. Around 25 training programs on land restoration available there. Some of them like maybe a few hours, some of them weeks, some of them years. But it's really a comprehensive list we have on the platforms. We have 500 inspiring videos on land restoration across various ecosystems, from wetland, forest, grassland, water. So all that also you can click on the map, and you go there and you download the data. If it's videos or data, you can. So it's really an interactive and friendly platform we have that user can interact with the data we collected. Regulations, it's one of the also things we are promoting. So we are trying also to see in different language the type of regulations are available, in French, English, even Arabic, Spanish. We have it here, you click on those countries, you get all the information you need. And we have around 289 regulation there. Also for data partners, and we have around 49 data platforms are really leading on the restorations, and we have it here. And we have some of these platforms, we have API. So every time when they update their data, all platforms get updated also. So we are really trying to really to minimize the human intervention in the platforms in terms of like updating data. But we have around 49 data platforms that we are connected to, and also connected to our database. So we are interact in many ways. We have around 2,500 best practices. It is really huge database we collect, and really I'm proud of colleagues here who spend hours and months. Erkan, who started this work before I joined the GLI, and I would like to thank him for the time he spent with us, and also Nicolas and Mariam. So it's really proud of this work, because collecting 2,500 best practices, verify them, link them to location. It's not something easy to do in a few months. So we have this comprehensive database. Really, you can go there and click and read. You can be expert there. I spend many hours, I learn a lot about best practices. And this we have in a single platform. So you click here, and you can even zoom at what is level. See what happened for the last. I use it a lot to learn and also bring the remote sensing data to see what happened. So I will stop there, but this is where we are, and thanks again for the colleagues who work on this, and I will hand over the floor to Ibi. Thank you.
Thank you. So for us who come from a core GIS background, in our field, Dr. Absalam is a superstar. So I have a few questions. I want to begin with a few questions before I hand over to the participants to ask questions. My first question is to Dr. Gula. Interoperability. How different systems can connect. I heard about 49 data sources. What were the technical challenges in integrating data from all these various citizen platforms?
Yeah, thank you very much. It's a great question because it's a common problem right now, integrating on the different systems. So citizen scientists, data platforms are more popular, getting more and more popular, but there are some potential challenges on the data platforms. One of them is the standardization, because each of the data platforms had their own methodology, system, format, and the structure. For example, one platform has CSV file using it. The other one is GeoJSON. The other one is API. So it's a little bit difficult to bring together, and it needs some transformation work and some data mining work also requires. Another potential problem is the data quality, because citizen scientists are collecting data in different fields, in different areas, but we don't know their knowledge, their training, and we don't know what kind of data tools they use. That's why it requires a very strong data validation process after getting this data before integrating on the main platform on the system. Another one is the data volume and the scalability, because most of the data citizen science projects are huge projects. So we are talking about the huge volume of the data. And your system, your centralized system, has to handle this kind of data sets. Otherwise, you can lose some data. This is another possibility. Or you need to hire some extra manpower, some hardware or software, etc. So this is also another problem. The other one is the privacy, because citizen scientist projects, they are collecting many data, including some sensitive information like address information, names, birthday, location, etc. So your centralized system must guard this kind of safeguard this kind of sensitive information, because these are sensitive information. We just would like to have some particular information data, not the others. So this could be another challenge. The last one is the continuous updates, because citizen scientist platforms on the projects are continuously updating their systems, sometimes daily basis, sometimes weekly basis. So your centralized system must handle this kind of synchronization and updating system. Otherwise, you stuck somewhere and your database would be just an old. So these are the main points. Of course, there are some other potential problems, but we faced some of them during our project, but somehow we handled them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to Nicole here. When I hear the name Nicole, I think about the Sprout Educational Consultancy. When you were a citizen scientist for the Global Land Initiative, what data did you collect? How did you collect it? And what surprises did you find with the data sets?
Thank you. Is this working? It's okay? Hi. So I was one of the citizen scientists, the volunteer citizen scientists who did the data collection, and I was helping Erkin with the data collection. He was in charge. It was great. And so the type of data I collected was I was asked to collect information about educational programs and courses that relate to land degradation and ecosystem restoration. And I was assigned 5 countries, Australia, New Zealand, Fiji, Solomon Islands, and Papua New Guinea. I wanted to get really good quality data, so I went to University Course Catalogs was the first place I went to. There, I would find formal educational programs that relate to these areas. I also wanted to leverage data sets that exist already online. So, for example, Australia has a really good existing database where you can go and you search for different themes, and it will tell you about educational programs that relate to those themes. So I tried to leverage those existing places, and I think that's really important anytime you're doing data collection or research. Another place that I looked was published lists. So, for example, nonprofit organizations need to be registered when they, in order to exist, they have to register with their government. So I went to those lists online and I looked up the nonprofits and I reached out directly to the nonprofits to ask them, do you offer any educational programs in these fields? Is there any program that you can recommend? And so by talking to the people directly and making these human connections, I could find more grassroots programs and programs that maybe represent informal education, not just formal education. So I think overall we got a pretty good picture of the educational programs that relate to land degradation and ecosystem restoration. In terms of surprises or lessons, things that came out of it, I was really surprised. Everyone was very forthcoming when I reached out to them. They're always willing to give you information about their programs because they're really invested in those programs. So that was really nice. And also, I find whenever I'm participating in a citizen science initiative like this one, or when I'm leading one, which I've also done, that I find that citizen scientists, if they have a collective goal, it's a really great way to motivate people, and they pick up for each other. So if someone can't complete the task, or if if they have to drop out for some reason, then the other citizen scientists tend to pitch in and they'll go over and above to make up for it. So I think these collective goals are really important that we have together. So hopefully that answers your question.
It does actually. Thank you. Dr. Miriam, since your experience goes deep into citizen science and how it intersects with various other fields. How does citizen science contribute to the well-being of individuals and communities at large?
Thank you so much. That's a great question, actually. Uh, as a researcher and someone who's really involved in public health and in cancer field, I believe that science really is important in contributing the well-being of individuals and communities, uh, especially since it's connecting the environment issues with the health impact, such as the pollutions. You know that pollution work as a factor in increasing the risk of cancer. So in my research, I noticed a gap in the data related to those kind of issues. So citizen science is really important in contributing the well-being of the individuals and the communities. Also, by engaging the communities in collecting the data and monitoring, it fosters uh, an agency or a kind of a sense of responsibility, which lead to like changing in behaviors regarding the health issues and also the environment. And in the long term, it will influence the policies makers into considering this kind of issues. Also, the overlooked data. Uh, Also, engaging the citizens in this kind of data collections and monitoring will make the researchers and the policymakers really make decision and engage in the overlooked data. Uh, yeah, so I believe after all, in the end, it will create this kind of networking between the individuals and the experts, which will lead in the long term into making a uh, stronger communities regarding both health and environment.
Because people are picking data that matters to them. Okay, thank you so much. Dr. Gula, I piggyback on your last response when you spoke about validation. Now, if I have a draft of my final report and I read a draft, it's even difficult for me to validate what I wrote. So, how were you able to validate data sets from so many places?
Actually, in the beginning of the project, we were thinking that the most difficult part is collecting data. But unfortunately, the most difficult part was just the validation of the data because thousands of data sets we collected from the different origin, different time zone, everywhere. So we follow three steps validation method actually. First one is before starting a data collection task, we gave volunteers a proper training. So we had dear Sunil Prabhakar. He gave a really deep training to the volunteer citizen scientists how to collect data online, which kind of data tools are useful, potential problems, etc. So we gave them a training first. Second, we ask our citizen scientists to collect also metadata and some other informative data as well. For example, the source of the data, author, publishing date, any kind of data, because we need that this kind of information we would need it for the validation. So we collected data plus metadata, data for data. The last part is we used our interns and the consultants time and a little bit knowledge because one by one they checked all the data sets. So we divided the collected data sets into sections and we assigned them by region, by country, etc. So first or second draft, they just checked it's okay or not. If they okay, they check. If not, they just put question marks. So we again recheck that question marks. The final step, for example, we have some questions about the data set. For example, maybe it includes some political issues or security or something else. So, including me with some experts, we one by one went through and we select. I mean, it's okay or not. Because Global Land Restoration Information Hub is important thing because our motto is very big. So we have to be careful what kind of data we are publishing. That's why we spend time for that, but I'm happy with the result. But unfortunately, as I said before, validation is the most critical part. This is the last part, last step. So we have to be careful. We followed this step, and our interns, our consultants, our citizen scientists, also everyone was great. So we did a successful job.
Thank you very much for that. I hope that maybe next year or something, when you guys want to use AI and machine learning to do something, maybe I can join the team and we can put a model in place.
That's
Thank
the
you.
plan.
Nicole, you worked as a citizen scientist for the Global Restoration Information Hub, and then I heard that after that you went to UNDP and implemented citizen science again. What's the experience? Why did you go that route? Lessons learned.
Yes. So, yeah. So when I work for, well, I'm working right now for UNDP, and in this project, we needed a large amount of data in a short amount of time. And when that need came up, because I had just participated in this wonderful citizen science initiative, it immediately was fresh in my mind, and I was thinking this might be a good route. I had a really good model of how to set it up, so I already knew how to run the communications. I knew how long it should be. I knew how to organize it, so it was really fantastic that way. The only thing I changed was I sort of flipped the way it was set up, because for my project, we used AI actually to do the data collection, and then we used the citizen scientists as the human in the loop, it's called. So for the AI part, the data collection, we wrote prompts for using GPT and Perplexity were the two systems we used. We had our team of staff, maybe I think 5 people internally, and we worked on that. So we collected about 1,000 data sets or not sets, 1,000 entries in about a week with the staff using the AI. And then once we had that data collected, we engaged with the citizen scientists and we did that initiative. We had 35 citizen scientists from around the world distributed. Those 35 people, because I had this great model, we trained them, we set it up that way. And then we gave them access to the database. So they would look up the information themselves. Then they would cross-reference it with the information that the AI had collected. So they looked at the GPT result, the Perplexity result, and then their own result. And then that would, if they were the same, great. But if they were different, then we asked them to go out and double check, that the information was correct. And yeah, so we ended up with about 1,000 service providers for our database at the end of only 3 weeks of total. Yeah.
Okay. So, folks, my hope is that maybe by next year there'll be an article. Maybe you come up with an article to show some of us the pathway that we should take. And before we come to the public, we have one last question for Dr. Miriam. Most of the agencies and CEOs who have come are all governing data. But I know for sure that data collection is very expensive. So I'm trying to figure out, where do the citizen sciences come in, and in which areas do you want to do it yourself?
Yeah,
And
thank you so much.
Yes, please.
We all know that citizen science is all about harnessing a large participation of volunteers. And we know that non-professionals people, that means less costs, which is going to decrease the costs financially. Also, that is going to help us cover more area. And coming from an underdeveloped country and with a lot of rare places, I know it's how hard it is to travel to very rare spaces. Not impossible, but it's very hard and very high costs. So by hiring the citizen scientist, it will reduce the cost of traveling of the researchers, and the volunteers there will give us an updated data with real-time data and continuous observations. So that's how the citizen science, and in the long term also it will help developing this kind of collaboration between the experts and the volunteers in the long term.
Capacity building also, I guess. Before we go to the I have one experience from this. A lifetime ago, when there were no base maps, I tried to gather data for Nokia. So those Windows phones, I got that. That was one of my first large contracts. And once I was using the satellite image to try and figure out what the buildings were, I met a taxi driver, a cab driver, who said, "Give me the map. I know where all the big buildings are." And he said, "This is a poultry farm. This is the chief's palace. Don't even pass there. The road there is wrong." So I realized that some people have so much local knowledge that they go above and beyond. So now we go to the public and begin asking our questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for this very informative and very important and sensitive session, because we are talking about the biggest picture of G20 Global Land Initiative, and with the most critical element, which is data. You mentioned, Professor, about the validity of data is the last point. Validity of data, you would think it's the last point for the data business. But I think data governance is the last point, in my opinion. So when we are talking about the G20 Global Land Initiative, let's start from the Saudi Green Initiative with 10 billion. Then when we go to the Middle East Initiative, 50 billion trees and 200 million hectares. That is part of the 1.4 billion hectare, which is 50% of this G20 initiative. There is a lot of investment needed by the governments or international organizations and the private sector in order to achieve this initiative. But doubtfully it can be achieved because the private sector is only contributing 6%. So awareness for private sector to attract him for this business is needed by organizations or by NGOs or whatsoever. Now, when I come to the governors of data is subject to 191 criteria. And this criteria has to be adopted in order that the data is transparent and accurate to be used as a raw material for the AI. Now you mention the citizen science and monitoring, they are just collecting data. Then this data has to be stored. And then data has to be analyzed. But the last point is to be governed. So who will take this part to do the governance of data in order to be in the right path? I don't think somebody pay attention for the data governors. That is highly specialized activity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please don't give me a response. Yes, please. Okay, sir.
I definitely agree with you. This is one of the critical questions we are facing as a data-driven experts. Right now the data is collected by different devices, drones, computers, pictures, videos, whatever. But I think we are forgetting this component, the data governance, and I'm sure it will remain as one of the main issues we are basically facing in the coming decades. For us, one component I think I mentioned in my presentation, which maybe help a little bit on this data governance, is the quality, the security, is the power of location, the geographic location. That's something really for us, help us, because we are looking data in 2 dimensions, time and space, so that we can monitor this land restorations. But somebody who have been in this business for the last 20 years, completely forget about data governance, which is a really key element. And I hope in the coming years, this will come up. But for us, as looking data in 2 dimensions, I think we have the location the power of location that help us a little bit to really at least to verify to the accuracy of the data is something we are, but it's a great questions. And I heard also last week you asked same questions, but it's really critical when it comes to land restoration. We are reporting in what? How we are reporting? Using what to report on land restorations? If we don't really look at this issue. So thank you again for your questions.
It's on
Yeah.
one
Do you want to
point
respond?
only.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
The idea of this platform, actually, this whole process, firstly, collect all available data, useful data. Actually, this is the first part. Data governance, of course, very, very important because under Saudi leadership, there are many projects are ongoing and planning also. In the future, of course, we need to discuss, we need to structure something and communicating between the systems and etc. And maybe a common shared database also we can discuss. But as I said, this is the first step. We just collect everything available right now on land restoration. And of course, it's a live system. It will still continue. But the next step would be with the maybe AI support, the data governance, of course. So I totally agree with you.
Thank you. Are there any comments here?
Oh, no.
Okay. What I took away from this is that citizen science and citizen data collection builds relationships between the communities, policymakers, leaders, companies, and that should actually go on. That means that data governance, awareness, and policy should be built into these youth programs that we have, that they may begin to learn about how we use this data set, what is private, what is public, what should be secured. I even know that in some data policies around the world, if you gather an audio interview of someone, it must be kept in a lockbox and transmitted. So these are some of the things that we must come up, because the youth are the ones who have these digital tools. They're the ones who even teach us how to use it as adults. The next thing is that maybe in our next couple hackathons, we might have data validation models that may be able to be like agents, work on data sets, understand how the data sets change over time, and we will be able to fine tune those data sets into larger data govern. Then the last thing I also noticed that in most countries we have national service. Youth after university go into agencies to work. They go into the military. Maybe data collection could be one of them. Maybe they could tidy up some data sets that need upgrading over time. So these are some of my thoughts. I don't know if after this we can talk. If anybody has any ideas, we can document and add to the platform. Thank you very much to our panelists, and thank you much for all the participants for attending. Thank you.